I know that if we keep pushing, we are going to divest this state's pension from fossil fuels. And I know, the comptroller's been really dragging his feet on that, but trust me, when I'm in the state Senate, we're going to do it ASAP as well. So again, my name is Jabari Brisbane. I'm running for state Senate, and we're going to fight. We're going to win this thing for the climate. You deserve it, and our children deserve it as well.
Thanks, Jabari. Up next, Nora and Nelly from the Coalition of Immokalee Workers.
Buenas noches a todos.
Good evening, everyone.
Mi nombre es Nelly Rodríguez y yo soy staff de la Coalición de Trabajadores de Immokalee.
My name is Nelly Rodriguez, and I'm a staff member with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers.
Y bueno, estamos aquí para hacerles una invitación y también para apoyar, ¿verdad? Para que corporaciones tomen responsabilidad social que deben para pues nosotros como consumidores.
So we're here to talk to you all because we, as consumers, we have responsibility to hold corporations accountable.
Muchas corporaciones por muchos años, ¿verdad? Sacan solamente ganancia de la gente, del consumidor, pero no se hacen responsables sobre el cambio climático, sobre el imbalance de la riqueza, sobre derechos humanos para trabajadores.
So corporations, they take off the backs of the people, and they aren't accountable, and they don't do anything for fixing social problems or helping with the climate issues that we're facing, or the rights of farm workers.
Y en esta ocasión nosotros como coalición tenemos 25 años de estar luchando para que esas corporaciones apoyen, ¿verdad? Para que acabe lo que es el acoso sexual con las mujeres, el trabajo forzado y el robo de salario en la industria agrícola.
And so we, with the coalition, have been working for 25 years now to end issues within the farm communities, farm worker communities, such as sexual assault and harassment, wage theft, even cases of modern-day slavery.
Y en esta ocasión tenemos una campaña con Wendy's que estamos exigiendo que tome esa responsabilidad. Vamos a tener aquí una marcha del 10 al 12 con como cientos de trabajadores que vienen de Florida, exigiendo a Wendy's que tome esa responsabilidad y estamos invitándolos para que nos acompañen.
So, we're here. We have a campaign going with Wendy's right now, the fast food corporation, and we're here demanding that Wendy's does right by farm workers and joins on to the Fair Food Program to protect them from all of these issues. And so we are having a 3-day march. It's going to be March 10th, 11th, and 12th, and we would love if all of you could join us, especially for the last day, to march the last 3 miles alongside farm workers that are coming up on a bus from Immokalee, Florida, to demand human rights protections and agriculture.
Next up, Adam Bunkadeko, who is a candidate for the 9th Congressional District.
Hi, how are all of y'all? Good evening. I won't take up too much time, but I want to thank everyone who came out and helped organize this. Again, as was mentioned, I'm running for Congress here in this district. A little bit about me before I chime in on sort of my take on climate. I'm the son of 2 war refugees, so someone who's mentioning that they're an immigration activist. I'm here as a result of 2 folks who had fled a war-torn country. My dad came here, $50 in his pocket, clothes he was wearing, extra set in a suitcase from Uganda. And he went to a detention center and managed to eke out through asylum and work a number of odd jobs to help bring my mom over. I've been born and raised in this city. I'll tell you a little bit about this district. It's currently represented by Miss Yvette Clarke in Congress. We have got, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, yeah, okay. All right, just making sure. This district stretches from Park Slope all the way to Brownsville, all the way down to Sheepshead Bay. To give you a sense of sort of the challenges that we face in this district on a number of fronts, I'll give you, for example, housing. So we have one of the largest proportions of public housing, not only in this city, but in the United States. So you think about the Albany houses, the Brownsville houses, the Sheepshead Bay houses. These are all a part of the NYCHA system that emit a huge amount of emissions. And that's in large part because they've been largely underfunded for a number of years. That number is 40 billion. So if you are now where we are here in Flatbush and go out to East Flatbush and Brownsville and Crown Heights where I'm from, we've got kids who have enormously difficult time breathing because the asthma rates around here are so high. When I was growing up as a kid, everyone had an inhaler except myself. And that is just because I was fortunate. I'll tell you about the other part of our district that is also heavily impacted by climate, Sheepshead Bay. Sandy came through and roared through and tore up a lot of the southern part of our district. We've got a member of Congress who takes money from corporate PACs, in particular fossil fuel executives, who are contributing to the emissions in this district. So on June 23rd, folks will have a chance and opportunity to decide what kind of future they're going to live in. Whether it's going to be one in which you get to have clean air for our children, black and brown children who live here in Flatbush and East Flatbush, whether or not folks who live on the southern end of this district are going to be washed away or their houses are going to be washed away, and folks who live in public housing, whether or not we get a Green New Deal that allows for folks to have their houses revamped and take out the lead and take out what's killing them every single day. So with that, I thank all of y'all for your work, because this is not easy. It's not that everyone tells us when we choose politics or we choose to tackle big issues, it is difficult, but because of folks like you in this room, we make progress every single day. So thank you.
Next up, Sam Koprak from Brooklyn for Peace.
Hi folks, I'm not running for office. Okay. But I am here to talk to you about the Move the Money campaign in New York City. Can you hear me in the back? Because I am getting over the flu. Anyway, the Move the Money campaign there's a resolution in New York City Council, A747A, very easy to remember, thinking of jetliners. Okay, that resolution is calling on the City Council to hold hearings on the impact of a bloated federal military budget on the inability to deliver services to the city. We can't have a Green New Deal unless we cut the defense budget. And it's important that New York City go on record as opposing this bloated federal military budget. How much is it? Last year it was $733 billion, 60% of discretionary spending. In fact, the U.S. military, most people don't know this because you're not going to read about this in newspapers, as an institution is the largest consumer of fossil fuels in the world. The U.S. military uses as much fossil fuel as the nation of Nigeria with 206 million people, okay? We think it's important to challenge those institutions, and we won't be able to have services in the city, we won't be able to have a Green New Deal unless we drastically cut our military budget. To that aim, I'm asking you I have a postcard campaign here. Right now, we have 17 city council members, 1/3 of the city council, who are already on record as supporting this resolution. We want the council member in this district, which I believe is Farrah Lewis, the council member in my district, Matthew Eugene, to go on record as supporting this, and any other surrounding districts, and whatever council members who represent you as well. We're asking you to fill out one of these postcards, you put your name and address in. We will, if you don't know your council member, we will look it up and we'll enter it in the database. And this is effective. Brad Lander, surprisingly, had been hemming and hawing on endorsing this. We showed up at his office with 300 or 400 signed postcards with the photographer. His office manager came downstairs. Within 5 minutes, he had signed on. He says, I'm supporting this. Okay? So this is like grassroots action.
And John
it's simple. Just
from
pull out a
the
postcard.
DSA Debt and Finance
Come up to me and
Working
get one,
Group.
or I can hand them out. It's up to you. Okay? Thank you for your time.
My name is Jenny and this is John. We're super excited to be here. We are part of the Democratic Socialists of America, specifically their Debt and Finance Working Group. We are a part of 2 very exciting adjacent campaigns that are going to be a critical part of making sure we can get a Green New Deal for New York State and public power for New York State. John is going to talk about public banking, which is one of them, and I'm going to talk about revenue and increasing taxes on the rich, which is another one of them.
Sure. Yeah, so a number of people in this room might have heard of public banking, be familiar with it. I think a lot of people in general don't know the status quo, which is that in this state, counties and municipalities deposit our tax revenue in private banks, where it becomes capital for whatever private banks think is going to make the most money. That includes private prisons, corporate landlords, and the fossil fuel industries. What we're proposing as an alternative to that is a system of public banking, where tax revenue goes to public banks chartered to be democratically accountable to the communities they serve, and whose prevailing aim is to make below market rate loans in public projects whose prevailing aim is the public good. So we think this is going to be a key way to fund the Green New Deal. The original New Deal was funded to the tune of $50 billion by a federal public bank, and making a New York City public bank alone under current fractional reserve requirements would allow us to make hundreds of billions of dollars of investments, not only in Green New Deal infrastructure projects, public power, but also local projects like cooperatively owned solar. So if you're interested in learning more about this campaign, we have an Assembly bill and a State Senate bill now. You can come see us after, and there's lots of ways to get involved.
We also have a campaign to tax the rich, so we know that something like the Green New Deal or public power would require a lot of resources here in New York State. But the good thing is, as one of the wealthiest states and also the most unequal state in the country, New York State does actually have the resources. We just have to have the ability to tax the rich. We think that it's super important, that we have the bills and the policy and the community activism and the demands to demand fully decarbonizing the economy, but we will also need the finances and the structures to make this a reality. Right now, we as DSA are part of a coalition to tax the rich. We have 17 bills right now in front of the state and the assembly. Collectively, these bills would raise $40 billion a year. The demand for a Green New Deal in New York State is only $10 billion a year, only. But all of this is within the realm of possibility, and that's what gets us so excited. However, there's a huge roadblock in that Andrew Cuomo does not want to raise taxes at all on anybody. He has said no new revenue this year, even though this year we are facing a $6 billion Medicaid shortfall, and we have to cut funding to long-term care and in-home care in order to close budget gaps. We think that this is just a falsehood. This false sense of austerity is just not necessary. We know where the pockets of money lie. It's about going out there and getting them, and then not just funding a Green New Deal, not just funding public power, but also social housing, fully funding public housing, fully funding transit, all of the other things that we need. These are all possible. So come join us if you're interested in either the public banking campaign or the revenue campaign. We work a lot with the eco-socialists here and love everything that you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
Okay, next up we have, actually before that, we are going to be passing out commitment cards. Sophia in the back and Elliot are going to pass these around just to go over some next steps that we can all take. As we have heard, it's going to take a mass movement to create the kinds of changes in the economy that we need in order to both make the 1% accountable for the crisis that they've created, and also to create new, more just, equitable energy systems and economic systems. So it's kind of like a check, you check off what you're interested in. If you want to help lobby elected officials, we're going to be having a big Earth Day mobilization in April, if that's something you want to help out with, or if you want to canvass your building or your community. So those are going to go around as the comments keep coming. So Josiah from Flatbush Extinction Rebellion.
Hi everybody. Wasn't really expecting to come up and talk, but felt compelled. I wanted to say that I appreciate that the campaign has added decolonization to the aims of the campaign, and I think that I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, we're on stolen land, and I think getting to the roots of the climate crisis will involve talking about really difficult things like race and patriarchy, and we need to be talking about that in groups and thinking about how social transformation can happen, I think, outside of the electoral system, while also going at the electoral system like the DSA is doing. So I got involved with Extinction Rebellion in the last few months because I think that like creative direct action is a way to shift the conversation in a big way. Yeah, and start to get at the roots. Not sure what else I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.
We've got Anna DeLuco.
Hello, good evening. I am with Ryan, and we are part of a group which is an organization of waste pickers. We call canners, people that you see on the streets picking up cans and bottles. And I think we are the only organization in the city for sure, in the state, and most probably in the nation. And we really are green workers, informal economy, and the people who really scrap the nickels on the street just to survive or to have a kind of extra help if they have disability or whatever, a small check. So we don't find a way to be integrated in the city. We think we do a good job, but we keep moving spaces, and right now we receive a notice from our landlord to be moved by April 30. We knock at the door of our councilman, Reynoso. He cannot do anything, the city cannot do anything, because there is a contract with Sims, which is a multinational corporation, and that corporation had convinced the city that by us getting the small cans and bottles, we make all of you, taxpayers, losing money. Actually, it's not true, but that is what we receive every time. There are studies done that we get 0.001 of what could go to Sims. And I myself, I have estimated, whatever we get, the thousands of canners in the city, we don't get more than 10% of what Sims is giving as a salary to their CEO. Just one person has 90% more than what we get, thousands of thousands in the city. And yet we have to hear that it's our fault that you taxpayers are losing money because of our work. So we really need to work with you, and especially to ask your support that we need more than ever to survive, because that is our economy, purely survival, and we know we do a good service to the city.
Just to say that, as we've seen sort of time and time again throughout history, it typically falls to those who bear the brunt of these huge issues to be on the front lines of trying to fix them. And as Anna described, we know that those who are benefiting from these issues aren't going to help us solve them. So we just want to say that we've seen the success of systems like canning deposit systems. It's been the only example of extended producer responsibility in New York State for over 30 years, and it's been a huge success, and yet it's not talked about on the state level, on the city level, as a solution for one of these issues, for these huge issues that we're facing. So we've heard a lot of talk about divestment and investment, and we just want to come and first of all thank everyone who's here to support this conversation about these tackling these huge issues together. And it's so exciting to see such a wide array of people here. Just to say that our community is made up of people disadvantaged in so many ways, different ways, immigrants, non-English speakers, people often rendered totally invisible by society, people suffering from disabilities, people experiencing homelessness. And we want to come and call for investment in the people who are already out there, not only surviving, but really performing this civil service, already in our communities, doing this work that deserves dignity and deserves investment. So thank you for listening.
We're starting to wrap up. Steve Fox.
Hi folks, my name is Steve Fox. I'm with the Eco-Socialist Working Group, and I used to work for ESCO. Oddly enough, that has actually made me no longer believe that ESCOs can be a thing of good. Now, who here has ever had a ESCO knock on their door? Raise your hand. That's less people than I thought, actually. I've had about, probably in the course of 8 years living in my apartment in Bed-Stuy, I've probably had an average of at least 1 or 2 every month.
Is that like Renew Energy Company?
Well, an ESCO is basically what's called an energy services company. Now what they are a company that takes energy, they buy it from some sort of source, and then they market it directly to customers. Theoretically, it's supposed to be a thing that's supposed to compete with what's called the horizontal monopoly that the energy companies have, which is like basically the monopoly they have over a customer base. Largely speaking, that's what they're supposed to do. It's supposed to bring down competition in order to make sure that people actually get a good deal. Theoretically, that's how it's supposed to work. Unfortunately, what has actually turned out is the vast majority of ESCOs have actually dramatically increased people's rates. I can't quote the stats offhand. In fact, I wasn't prepared to speak. Sorry. But what's it called? I know there was a study a couple years ago that showed that the vast majority of people that are customers of ESCOs have actually seen their prices increase at a fairly dramatic rate. And disproportionately, the people that are targeted by the ESCO industry are people from frontline communities. They're people that are of immigrant backgrounds. They are people that are more elderly. And they're showing that, largely speaking, they're taking advantage of people who less likely do understand what they're trying to market to them. The people who had ESCOs come knock on their door, how many of them claim that they were from the energy company or the energy seller? Now that is a way to make sure that they don't come off as someone who is not the actual company that they're representing. It is a way to commit fraud, basically. And this is a thing that is endemic to the industry. Now, largely speaking, a lot of these companies, they use outside marketers to knock on doors. They use these things because every time there's a complaint, they can say, okay, we have held this company accountable. What we've done is we've fired them as our marketing company, so they're no longer a concern. Of course, those companies are all LLCs. What they do is they go, they make another LLC, they bring the same people back, they're hired again. You see the same cycle happening over and over again for all these different ESCO companies. We have seen the PSC make small action, creating a rule. I'm saying that I have 30 seconds left, so I'll make this super quick. They made a rule recently to, it's called restrict what these companies can do. Unfortunately, it's largely speaking insubstantial because they can still fraudulently come to your door, claim to be someone that they're not, and still raise your rates. So yeah, I'm just here to say that we should strongly support a ban on ESCOs or restriction to them to community choice aggregation markets. We need to make sure that they're not directly talking to customers and committing fraud. And there's only way to hold them accountable is to either ban them or restrict them to markets that are knowledgeable about energy choice. Thank you very much.
Ward Polikoff.
Thank you everybody for coming here. Thank you for staying here. I know it's been a while. I was very excited to know that this was going to be held in Flatbush. I used to sell solar panels door to door to homeowners in this neighborhood. One summer in 2017, I discovered Taste the Tropics. It's the best ice cream I've had in any place in New York. I'm probably going to take like a gallon of mango ice cream home with me. And I can just tell you, since you've heard a lot of things, what I learned, selling panels door to door. I don't think I need to tell you it's not hard to convince people that the way Con Edison does things is a source of frustration. Nobody likes all the charges on their bills and all of that. But I think what's really pressing is just this huge crisis we have to address. If this was a really simple world, we would know that climate just needs us to completely switch how we get our energy, and we would switch to solar and wind and everything green. But the reason that we're not doing that is because there's a lot of money to be made from the way things are. The reason your bill goes up month to month in every home I would speak to is because it costs more and more money to drill deeper into the ground to get less and less gas. And the reason that there's all this pressure to raise rates is also because there's a business and Con Edison's stocks go up. They make more money off short-term gains, and there's not really an interest in addressing things in the long run. They also want to pay off their shareholders with dividends. So again, the common problem is we're not addressing these problems that we need. It's bad for the planet, and it costs us, everybody, every month with our bill. There's a lot of money at stake, so there's going to be a lot of interest, but we're all here. The economics are on our side, the science is on our side, that we need to do something about this. This is New York. We have a one-party rule here. It's a really progressive state. Look at the world around us and not even too far away from us to know that we have a lot of energy in our community and all over New York City and New York State to do some big, ambitious change. Public power, there's going to be a lot of pushback saying that we're taking something private, or whether we're even able to or allowed to have it under state rule. This is a major, major problem. It calls for something that big. It's been done all over the world. We're not a state that gets this massive sweeping victory to do a little piecemeal problem where we slightly reform the system. So we have energy, we have people, economics, science, and all this power on our side. I think it's really, really encouraging. We can do it. Thank you.
All right, let's give another round of applause for our speakers. I want to thank you all for coming. Please fill out the pledge cards and return them to the front as you leave. But before you all leave, let's do something together. I want you all to repeat after me. I. Say your name. Will call. Senator Kevin Parker. And my elected representatives. Tomorrow. At my earliest convenience. And tell them to support public power. And a Green New Deal. All right, that's legally binding. You have to do that. All right, again, thank you so much for coming. We are going to get drinks at the Sip and Chat Cocktail Lounge, which is a block up that way. Literally leave, make a right, get to the corner at East 29th, make a left. It's right there at the end of the block. So yeah, come grab a drink with us, grab a bite to eat. We'd love to see you. All right, give yourselves a round of applause, and thank you for coming.